Hello everybody, the dojo is now open. I am your Sensei Bendo.
Cheesy.
I'm Konya Crystal.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Hunter.
And welcome to NINJAGOCast, where today we're a little late, but we're going to be talking about Monstrosity since it came out just last week. And then we're also going to be talking about the comic that got announced that I don't know how many people remember that happened because I kind of forgot before it got brought back up again when we were finding topics for the podcast. So, yeah, this is going to be a little bit more of like a laid back stream. We're not really discussing as much crazy big news, no like new episodes or trailer or sets or anything. But I think Monstrosity in its own right is a pretty big deal. We kind of talked a lot about the implications of it last time when the trailer came out and all that kind of stuff. But now we have the full thing, all 3 shorts, 15 minutes. And now we can kind of just give our thoughts, what we think, how it went, and what we think this could bloom into in the future, hopefully, if they continue to make stuff like this, which I'm really hoping they do. Because man, the potential of this stuff is just insane, and I'm really happy to see, just Lego experimenting and just doing different things, and
and with the concept, it's open to the possibility that there may be legends like this that could be with other characters like Nia or like Cole, or maybe even what happened to Zane or Pixel.
Yeah, it's an open format that I think lends itself to a lot of creativity, and I'm interested to see, like, do they continue in this style if they do more of these? Do they do it like the legacy shorts in the past where each set of shorts maybe has a different style? I'm really curious to see what they do from there, or like what they do in the future. But before we delve too much into that, of course, what did you guys think of this? What's like the overall consensus on this? I actually haven't really like looked too much at like the community consensus. I haven't really been keeping up very well. So I'm curious, what does just like everybody think? How's everybody feeling?
I love it. Okay, so I've heard 2 main opinions, which is one, man, this is really, really good, and it's really pretty and beautiful and cool and interesting, and I agree with all those. And then the other thing is, man, I wish it was longer. This feels a bit short.
Right.
And I agree with a bit of both. The animation in this is phenomenal. Like, as someone who loves Monkey Kid, as someone who loves the best parts of the shorts that I'm dumb and I don't remember the names of, but the one where Golden Legend is from, etc., etc. So good. It is also, a few of us have just watched it like less than 15 minutes ago or so it's very fresh in my mind, but it is amazing, and I really do hope that we get more, because it was a bit short, so I'd love to see more like that.
Yeah.
I've also seen that people are saying, "Oh, it's too short," and that's like a testament to how good it is that how much we want more of it, and we've been wanting something like this for a long time, where we could have Ninjago in a certain Monkey Kid style, and although we have seen, besides the shorts that came out for Legacy, we've always wanted to see these ninja in a 2D animated style, and while we've seen it in Wild Brain era Ninjago, from Secrets of Forbidden Spinjitzu to Crystallized, it was it left a lot to be desired, but this time they're okay with experimenting, and since Ninjago's probably not gonna go away anytime soon with all of these announcements that have been made in the past few months, this was a breath of fresh air and something very, very exciting that I hope is more of the future of Ninjago in general.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I see this as a stellar extension of the Dragon's Rising series, as like a standalone story that you can watch and you can be very invested with, as well as really appreciate its artistry, like the atmosphere and the tension as well. Um, and I think what I was most like surprised by was how I was really able to utilize all those aspects, because like when watching this for the first time, I felt like a huge breath of fresh air. Like this is really something that we haven't seen in Ninjago for a lot of reasons, because it's 2D animated, and this is more like directly connected to like that story in a more like serious format, as well as taking it in a more mature direction, which is very intriguing, which intrigued all of us when it was first announced. And like there's actually quite a bit to like really unpack from this like 15-minute like shorts here, which is really nice. Like it's nice to really like kind of like look at each episode and really take what each of them have to offer, which I'm sure we'll get into in this stream here.
Yeah, I thought these shorts were absolutely incredible. I got to watch it with I live streamed it and watched it with a bunch of like 30, 35-year-old people who have never seen Ninjago before, don't really know much about it, and they all absolutely loved it. I think it even got some of them into Ninjago just
Hell
based
yeah.
off these shorts. So I was like, awesome. But I mean, the story, the animation, I was head over heels with it the minute I pressed play. It was already I think it's, to me, one of the best pieces of Ninjago media that's been produced. It's nice to have like that, like what's already been said, a refreshing take on Ninjago, something more kind of adult oriented. I get why it was so short, because it's they're dabbling with adults in Ninjago and they don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. So I understand why it was so short, but I wish it was longer too.
Yeah, I definitely see that sentiment thrown around a lot. Um, I think the real reason, like I didn't expect us to get, when we heard shorts, I was very much just expecting something around this length, like 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think a big reason as to that too is just how expensive this probably was to make.
Oh,
Even
definitely.
just 15
Mhm.
minutes of just a product, not only just in the animation, but like the sound quality and sound design. Everything just feels so high budget and professionally made that I imagine this could not have been extremely cheap. And to produce something like this on the scope of like even a 30-minute set of shorts would have been, I think, way too much for Lego to want to gamble with and do.
The SFX rendering alone, I think,
Mhm.
is
So good.
the smoke and the different ways that they um, work with perspective and how things fade in and out. I like its real camera. I'm still blown away.
The
Oh god.
compositions, the freaking
Yes.
Vincent Tong's vocal delivery in
Oh yeah,
this is phenomenal.
amazing
Like
performance.
gut punching phenomenal, and I love it.
And its vocal performances in Ninjago kind of like we've never seen before. There are definitely moments in Ninjago where we get that kind of experience where we have characters that are alone and have to deal with their problems firsthand and talk to somebody about their problems, but not to this magnitude and how much it feeds into the tone of the short.
Mhm.
Hmm.
It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, no, Vincent
Vincent
Tong
Tong
absolutely
deserves his
crushed it.
flowers.
Yeah, he crushed it here.
I think like I thought about this, and to be honest, I do think this is Vincent Tong's best performance in the entire franchise.
Oh yeah,
Agreed.
easily.
Yeah.
Like he brings so much gravitas to the role. Like a lot of the reason why these shorts are as suspenseful, as anxious, and as tense that they are throughout the whole experience, is because of his performance. Like, in a sense, like, he is a source of levity and anxiety throughout this whole thing, because like seeing his presence, because he's a familiar face, a lot of us know at this point, he is a presence that we're used to, and so we trust him, and we really, are already able to connect with him and feel for him. But at the same time, though, like, we're seeing him go through this really like really uncertain, very like mysterious and spooky kind of landscape. And so at the same time, we're also on edge and just feeling so much anxiety because of that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the performance really helps to like sell the danger and like the dread of the situation that I don't think would have been as well communicated had he not done such a good job. Like, obviously the visuals are there too. It's a very like the visual style and everything surrounding it, and like the designs of like the creatures and the landscapes of the monsters definitely go super long way in selling like how, afraid and alone and like just like tired he is. But the vocal delivery and performance just pushes it even further to where it's like, yeah, I believe this little Lego guy is really going through it. So even if you show this to someone who has no idea who Kai is, they have no attachment to the character, his performance like sells
And
it
I
instantly.
also was very curious and made the mistake of watching the episode where Kai is reunited with Lloyd on the ship after it.
The
Um,
Dragon's Rising.
and it also sells the fact whenever you do rewatch it back, it's just like how calm and how easygoing Kai is just because he's surrounded by them again
Yeah,
and surrounded by Lloyd. It's a pang to the heart,
right.
and
It adds like another
it's
layer
so
to the
great that
character
way.
of like how much
Yeah,
does he mask from the other ninja? How much is like his, goofy like fun personality more of like a facade
yeah,
Oh my
based
and
on
heart.
like,
people
like
yeah, and people are already pointing out the fact that whenever they went into the cave in season 1 and how he was the only one that we didn't get to hear about
right.
or see what happened in it. Uh, this may be it,
I would
and or
place a
something
lot of
else.
money on this being what he saw in the vision.
I'm pretty
So
sure
many
Doc
people
even
pointing it out.
commented on this as well.
Yeah, it makes it even more
It makes Kai
heartbreaking.
such like a more layered and interesting character at this point in the show, because I already thought
Mhm.
Dragon's Rising did such a good job at like kind of, maturing the character, having him learn lessons that, he needed to learn, especially after like Seabound, that he didn't really get to in Crystallized. This short even touches on that with the second episode of, his grief after losing Nia, which was so criminally underutilized and crystallized that
Mhm.
it makes me like so happy every time they retroactively like put that back in there, like, because that did happen and we didn't really get to see any of it. But in
Yeah,
Dragon's Rising with Wildfire, we got that one scene back in season 1, and now here we get pretty much the whole second short is about that and him putting, teaching that lesson to the Firestone mech
yeah, and
character, which
and
is
it
really cool.
also speaks that whole short to all of the other moments that Kai has been very low in the series. I recall how he was whenever the team split apart at the beginning of season 4.
Hmm.
The initial loss of Nia in the pilots and the frustration. And it's it's so good that we have more of moments of Kai like this because a lot of the time, and especially in the fandom, people have been putting Kai so low because of how much focus they don't put on Kai and how much he hurts from Nia or how much he misses someone else or how much they just pull Skylar out for crystallized and hardly do anything about it. This is very refreshing in a sense. We get to see that part of Kai that we've so hungered for, and in such a genuinely heartbreaking way, which is very
Hmm.
refreshing.
Agreed.
I
I feel
think
like it's definitely
you go. You already started.
okay. I feel like moments like this, and again, a lot of what work Dragon's Rising has done to really bolster up Kai's character so far with all the stuff with Wildfire. And honestly, I feel like at this point, Kai's shot up in my list of favorite ninja from like being in the middle to even sort of the lower to now.
Right.
It's probably in my top 3, which is
Yeah, no, it's the
which is
Kai
saying a lot.
redemption arc has been insane
Maybe top 2.
throughout
I think
Dragon's Rising
might
era.
he might have finally usurped Zane as my second favorite, and Zane has only remained my second favorite for so long because he was my first favorite for forever until Cole basically kicked him off that pedestal.
They had to,
Anyway,
they had to knock down
drop
Zane to
kicked.
prop Kai up.
Yeah, but now I feel like it's time. I feel like Kai is such a well-rounded and full character that it's just freaking great. So I'm very happy.
I think
Yeah.
it is kind of interesting. Like this is sort of like a solidification of the series putting more emphasis back into Kai again, because like, you know, since Lloyd became the Green Ninja, it was, it placed more focus on Lloyd, but in doing so, it kind of just like gave just scraps for Kai, and we kind of saw this a lot, and like we saw this trend with especially in like the Oni trilogy and the Wild Brain era even, and so to see them put so much more focus on Kai again and the Dragon's Rising era is definitely, as a Kai
Yeah.
fan myself, it's definitely very it's great to see, especially with like all the rich stories they've been able to give him these past few years. I mean, we're only like 3 seasons in, which is already crazy to think about, but now we have this short as well, so it's makes me more hyped to see where they'll take them. And another thing I would like to add as well is I think these shorts also do a good job of further highlighting just how scary the merge was, because
Mm.
they do a good job selling like the chaotic and very confusing nature of the merge. But like, I think if there's one thing they haven't emphasized that these shorts do is just how scary it is, and just how dramatically it just reshaped everything. Like it does a good job of really showing, like, because like Kai is having to trek through what is still Ninjago, like a place that he's lived in all his life, but now it's a stranger to him. It's not like anything he's ever seen before, and I feel like that is something that I think really works in its favor here, as well as helping to recontextualize the merge as we already knew it, which I think is great.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's really impressive what they were able to do here. I think like with everything, the world building, the character work, it just expands upon quite a lot in such a little amount of time. I think the main drawback with the short length is the pacing of the storytelling. I think, well, these shorts do a lot for Kai and for the world of Ninjago. Things that have been pre-established, things that we've seen before, and things that will continue to always be a part of the show. Things like the new elements introduced, the new characters, the individual stories at play here, while all very good. I think it's kind of hard to get the most out of, you know, all of those when you have such a little time. But like I said earlier, it's completely understandable why it's so short. I don't know if it's like a valid like complaint or criticism to say that, like, you know, the pacing is a little, you know, quick, because obviously.
I
But,
can
I feel
totally
like it's a
understand
bit-
that.
Yeah, it's a bit valid. I mean, because like the thing is does by the end of the shorts does it feel as satisfying as it possibly could be? And to that, I feel like in some ways definitely yes, but then in others, it's like I do have that yearning for more to have
yeah,
seen a
and
bit
it's
more of what
unfortunate
he's
that
been
like
going through.
it's cool because we know that like if this does well, that we'll probably get more legend stuff, but like that's assuming, you know, future legends things are like, okay, well, here's what happened with Nia during the merge, or here's another character during the merge, or like here's a side story of like
Yeah.
something else completely, a flashback of some other thing in the lore. I don't necessarily think we're ever going to return to the land of monsters, or if we do, maybe we will in the show, but like in this kind of style and this kind of thing. Kai's whole story here is basically done. And
Yeah.
it is a little upsetting knowing that, like, these stories had a lot of potential to be like these big things. But the fact that we got anything like this at all, I think is really nice. And I think, there's still potential for new ideas in the future to be just as exciting as this one. This just in particular is such a good idea for like the first set of shorts that it's like, it's sad that this kind of had to be the guinea pig, but like it's also really cool because this is like, how else are you gonna make like entice it and make it so exciting off the bat? So it's like a double-edged sword.
And like it makes a lot of sense as well because like I mean Kai is a popular character. I mean the amount of mechs this guy's sold is already
right.
immense.
If they're gonna sell a
why would
big
you
giant
target?
like 14 plus mech, of course it's got to be Kai. If not like it, or else it would be like Lloyd or something else, but they'd save that for later, So it does
Yeah,
make
and
a lot of
that's
sense.
what I mean because like if I remember correctly, we already know like Lloyd's merge story because he already told us in one of the first few episodes of Dragon's Rising, and I feel like Kai is in a pretty unique position because it's a pretty long gap to merge, and with Kai, we already know that he meets up with Lloyd within like, from I recall, a few weeks or maybe even a month after the merge, and so that's like a lot of time for you to really like experiment with the story, but it isn't like too expansive that it like becomes overwhelming, as well as the fact that I'm sure the writers also want to touch on other character stories, like maybe like what Cole was doing um or like what Zane or Pixel were doing with their whole disappearance and the mystery surrounding that. So I feel like Kai was probably the best candidate out of all these characters for that.
It's
And
also
I would
go ahead.
go on. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, and I think if they really were trying to bring in an adult audience, I think when you think back to early Ninjago when the show was first coming out, if they want to bring back a lot of those people that watched the show during that time, which I kind of think was the goal as well, when I think Kai was kind of the poster boy for that era.
Right.
I mean, he was the star of the pilots. That was Kai. That was like kind of like the goal. Was they're like, we need a focus character. Kai's kind of the focus character. And I think people stuck with that. And then, as the show died off, or no, not the show, but like, fans kind of dropped off as they got older because obviously no one's going to stick with a show forever. I think that was why they chose Kai, was because the older fans are going to know Kai. That was probably a lot of people's guy back in the day. So I think that's probably another big reason why Kai was the guinea pig for Ninjago Legends.
Yeah, that's a good point too. It's also refreshing because often with these kinds of things, we find ourselves, kind of being like, maybe this should have been in the show, kind of stuff, or like, why was this in the show? Why is this a short? Why is this like a book? Why is this why is this? But this doesn't have that problem at all. This like only acts to expand what we've seen while not feeling like, oh, this should have been like an arc for Kai in the show or the series, which is really refreshing, especially coming off like the last set of shorts we got, which were the Wildfire ones, which I think were some of the worst in terms of this should have been in the show, This was very much like, this is such a good like extra material for the character that adds another layer to him that recontextualizes stuff in the show but doesn't feel like we're missing anything by not having had this in the actual show itself, which is for Ninjago, like supplemental material is always such a good middle ground when we get that, because sometimes it's we get stuff that really feels like either it should have been in the show and not left as side material, or it just feels like it's a little pointless. But this is like the perfect middle ground.
Oh yeah, exactly. And earlier you mentioned the fast pacing as a potential criticism, and that was something that I wrote down when I first watched it. Is I do find the fast pacing to be, I think, one of the only hiccups that the story really has, because like when I first watched it, it was a very overwhelming experience, and it took some time for me to get used to. And while I have gotten used to it in my rewatch, it is still a key thing I would like to mention, because while I do think the fast pacing was beneficial in creating tension as well as like reinforcing the chaotic atmosphere, especially with the montage at the beginning. At the same time, though, with how everything's moving so quickly and how it has to push the story forward as much as it can, I do feel like it does make it a bit harder to really appreciate like the artistry like as well as like the new characters that we made here. Because I mean, it already sells me on Kai, but with those new characters, while I also do like the two new characters we got at the same time, though, I do feel like we could have had just a little bit more like breathing room to really like grow even more attached to them than
Yeah.
I feel like they could have done.
I
But
think-
then again, that probably would have required more money and just a little bit more time.
Exactly.
To do that,
It's
so.
hard to complain because it's
Yeah.
like they really did a good job with the time they had in terms of pacing. I feel like
Definitely.
they really
Yeah,
let they let
definitely.
shots linger, and they gave
Right.
time for like the emotional moments to hit. Like they paced it out well in terms of those moments, but in terms of the story itself, it's like the whole conflict resolution thing is very quick for basically all of these.
Yeah.
The turnarounds in terms of like, you know, Kai convinces the Firestone mech to fight again is very sudden. You know, the whole like Kai abandoning, you know, the Firestone mech at the end, the whole like him convincing the dragon. It's all these things that should have been like, you know, that could have been whole episodes, obviously, but they can't be because these are just
Time.
shorts.
Yeah.
But again, it's like it's hard to like I usually when I have a critique like that, I try to think of, well, how would I write it differently, but I really don't know how I would write it differently besides maybe like condensing it, like maybe having one 15-minute episode instead of 3 shorts. But then you kind of miss out on you gotta chop 2 of those stories, which is really hard to do because they're all really good stories. And I don't know
Yeah,
which
and
one
then,
I would choose to make the focus.
And like and
Something-
those stories are also effective in like building up like the themes and conflicts that the story is presenting as well.
Right. Like the ending doesn't work as
Indeed.
well if you just have one of these stories. You need 3 of them to like make it really sell the point.
It's a story in 3 acts. There are 3 characters. We have Kai, we have the dragon, we have the fire mech. And each one of them has their good moments. Each one of them has character moments that you grasp onto. And I think the execution of the visions in the lake are incredible because each one is a thing that they have wanted in each character's life. The mech wants a purpose. He finds the purpose while looking at his master, which calls back to that, and the dragon calls back to what she said before, and Kai, we know what Kai wants. And that visualization of like, here it is, here's what you want, here's what you need, Kai, is so palpable. And the tension that is built up from those 3 moments is executed well and has great moments in which each one of the characters shine while closing each of their arcs in a very welcome manner. I really appreciate how, even though these stories are small, the pacing kind of helps it a little whenever we end up in those last few moments where each thing that's set up has a payoff.
I'd say even on top of that, when it comes to especially Kai's, because like when we were rewatching it, like my heart felt like it got stabbed when they showed the other ninja reflecting in that lake. And so like I feel like a lot of that tension and that buildup is because it was 3 different stories, because it felt like time had passed, because it
Yeah.
felt like he's been on this journey. Without that, and if it was just one big story or like one story that was mainly just one thing happening, I don't know if it would still have that same kind of tension.
I agree. I do think, like I said, like Kai here definitely gets the benefit of the doubt because we've known him. He gets to be the main character throughout all 3 of these. The payoff of like, or like not really the payoff, but like the moment of him seeing the ninja is it hits and it works because we know the character. And even if you don't know the character, the performance sells it enough to where it's like, okay, you get it. The new characters, on the other hand, like the moments in the lake, I think don't hit nearly as hard for me as they would have if, you know, this had more time to explore them more and we got to meet them more and learn more about them. But again, it's one of those things where it's like with the time that they had, they did a really good job, and I can't really think of any other way that I would personally write it or change it to make it better. So
Yeah, and
I
the
mean,
and the shock of the dragon seeing their child, their
yeah,
assumed deceased child in the water, is incredibly heartbreaking and something that we haven't seen that much.
yeah, and it
Uh,
adds context to like why, you know, she decided to ultimately like not kill the monster, like the monster egg at the start, and kind of, you know, add to
Yeah,
that
and like
first one. That's
the
cool
thing
stuff.
that I like the most about this animation style is that it really invokes a haunting pathos, as well as it also brings like this very powerful symbolic imagery. Like take the first short for example, where like when the dragon's explaining the story about how her child was like taken from her, we see like a little representation of that. And then when we see her about to like do the same to the beast that took her child, you get the same visual of what you described earlier. And I really like that symbolism right there to really highlight that she is becoming the monster that she just said that she hated. So,
Right.
and that's something that I really
Mhm.
appreciate through all three of these shorts is I do think they're very effective in really showcasing that visually and as well as in the performances as well. And that's just something that just makes these shots so wonderful to look at because they all have a story to tell. Like each frame helps to
Yeah.
really add to the story. Like no frame is wasted.
Even like the environments and everything, like the design of all the places that you see Kai going through. It really these places feel like lived in and like, you know, what an actual like monster like ravaged like infested world would look like, especially in that second like short with like the centipede creature and like all the different rooms and like caverns that he finds himself in. It's just all the details and the environments are so well done.
Exactly. And I feel like for me, the most hardest hitting shot is like just the reflection of the lake while like Kai looking at the lake and we see a reflection of like all his friends and his family. And it's such an emotional shot because you can see him, he's like very close to tears and he just it's such a desperate, very like vulnerable like
Yeah.
character moment right there.
Mhm.
And really like it's such a very like poignant shot that really I feel like helps sums up this entire story here that tells you everything you need to know about it, as well as this is his main goal as well. I feel like it does a great job of really highlighting it, highlighting his anxiety, his trauma, and like yeah, like the animation here is just incredible.
Yeah, the imagery of like him sinking in the lake and like the monster kind of revealing itself. It's really well done. That whole sequence was really, really well done.
Well, it sounds like everyone's favorite episode so far
No,
was short
definitely the third
was the
one.
third one.
the third,
I
yeah,
actually
Yeah, it's so good.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I think my favorite was the second.
Yeah,
Oh,
let's
Really?
go,
Huh.
Vendo. Let's
Yeah,
go. That was my favorite too.
the second was not only like the creepiest, which I really enjoyed. I like how they really like went all the way with like the whole like centipede creature, the way it was like
Mhm.
crawling around, the way it was like animated, and like the sound design and everything. They gave so much time of like just watching Kai explore that area and just like kind of sneak his way through, which is really cool and tense. But then the
Agreed.
story of Kai like learning about the Firestone mech and his master, and like kind of like I said earlier, kind of teaching that lesson like he did to Wildfire and Dragon's Rising about his experience after losing Nia. but this time even less directly. Like it's really just like if you know the character, you know exactly what he's talking about, and it's like it makes it really satisfying. And I just love seeing anything that harkens back to that, since it was such like missed potential and crystallized. Just seeing Kai talk about that experience and help others through it, and I thought it was really well done, and I thought the ending was really well done, of empowering up the mech, and that was probably my favorite. But the third one is definitely up there as well. I think they all are really close in quality.
Yeah. Because like even the first one, one of my favorite moments is like the opening montage of like showing him
Yes.
evading all these different
Oh,
monsters,
so
because it
good.
really builds up the atmosphere so well, and then like the shot blocking and like it's so good.
And
I
the
can't.
creativity of like all the different
Mhm.
monsters, and like, man,
And
it's
like how
so
he's
well
trying to
done.
hide from each one is all different, and it's just
Like, I
so
could
good.
watch a
Like,
whole
give me
show
more.
of this. It makes me so
Yes.
sad that this is all we get, but it makes
Yes,
me so happy
please.
that we got it all. It's like it's mixed feelings, but it's
The
overall
amount
very
of
happy.
monsters that they were able to cram into such
Yeah.
a short
Mhm.
time is so impressive. And even in the marketing, I mean, what is it, the Ninjago Legends ad where they're like, you can continue the story, they show a monster that wasn't even in the
Right.
show.
I'm sure they
Like
had so many
they went all
ideas.
out.
Yeah.
The
I'm-
concept, we need like a book or something now.
There was
Please.
there's
Stories.
probably
I would love
so
an art
much that
book,
they had to cut out
gosh.
from this.
I want an art book so bad.
Yeah.
Give me a monstrosity art book, and I will cry.
go
I mean, I'm sure
crazy.
they'll put this up somewhere like they did with that Ninjago reimagined short they did.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, they got to
I
go
think that's
all
for-
out with this. I am incredibly impressed with what they were like, everything they were just able to pack in just this 15 minutes. It was really, really well done. And the vibe and just I don't know, it's so like eerie and creepy and mysterious, and it's so cool, and I want more. I want more of this. It's so good.
I
I
feel
think-
like definitely want. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You go.
No, mine's gonna be sort of veering a little bit sideways from what Bender just said. so
I
you can
mean,
go.
mine was too.
Oh.
Steve.
Okay. I was gonna say, I think one of the coolest things that was mentioned here today was like Hunter's friends, who are all around their
Yeah.
30s, give or take, seem to really be taking to it, which means that we might really get some new ones because it seems to be
People
working.
are liking this, and hopefully, the sad thing is, the big thing is buying the sets. So, even if people are loving these shorts, which I'm sure a lot of people are, even people who aren't fans of the show, how many people are then gonna actually want to buy the Firestone mech or the
True.
dragon? That's gonna be the big if, like, are the sets gonna do well? Which I think the sets will do well regardless, because one, they're Ninjago, and two, they look beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But it does kind of rely on that, as well as the YouTube views. Of course, they're gonna look at that, but like, this is based off of the least viewed shorts, or short of the Legends or the Legacy shorts. So that kind of speaks to me that Lego's more concerned about how well's the theme gonna do, because this is kind of, at the end of the
True.
day, it's only 2 sets, but it is like a sub theme, in the similar way that like Legacy and Core were sub themes.
Yeah.
So I could see us definitely getting more, because I think I could imagine the sets are gonna do well, because they're much more in line with like Ninjago as like Ninjago's identity, and it's not like a crazy different thing. And the fact that they're
Makes sense.
aged up a little bit, 14 plus, maybe that'll alienate some people. But I think even kids are still gonna buy these sets, like, regardless. So
Yeah, I don't think kids
I
are gonna
mean-
care about that kind of thing. They're gonna be like, "Oh wow, a cool
yeah,
mech,
like
a cool
mech-
dragon, yes,
yeah, like,
please."
I don't think that's really gonna
You-
hinder it.
Would you like to know what the view count is after only being up
Oh,
for a week?
that's a good
Yes,
that's a
please.
good point. I
Statistics.
would love
It is
to know.
700,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's already surpassed Golden Legend, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. Yes. That is true.
Nice. Let's go.
That's
That makes me
workout
really happy.
robbed.
That makes me really happy.
It is kind of
really good
poetic
for
though that it
YouTube.
surpassed it, considering
Oh,
like I'm pretty sure that was like the lowest viewed one.
Yeah, it
betw-
was
between
by a
those
lot,
five.
by a lot too, which is really sad, because it was like everyone's favorite, but like the general audience just did not care as much.
But then again, it got the last laugh considering we got
Oh, yeah.
Ninjago Legends. So.
Yeah, exactly. Because Lego knew, like, I'm sure they knew, like, oh, we could make a lot more money off, like, if we did any of the other shorts. But we also see the
Promoted
changing market,
heck out of this.
and we also see that, like, with our products, because at the end of the day, like I keep saying, like, we love the shorts and we love the show and we love Ninjago, but at the end of the day, it's about the products. And I think Lego knows there's such a big push right now for more aged up sets. And what better than giving your biggest IP, which has been around for, more than 10 years at this point.
Almost 15.
Sets for a bit of an older audience, not a super old audience. They're not like 17 plus sets, they're not like UC or like what's the like Ultimate Collector's Edition like Death Star. They're not that. but they're 14 plus, a little bit higher age demographic. They're inching it up, and they're putting it alongside a piece of media that can still be enjoyed by kids, and I'm sure kids love this. More older audiences are going to get more out of it just from the visuals and the style alone.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up earlier, and how like another thing that I'm sure will work in these sets' favor is the fact that there is an appetite for adult sets. I mean, look how many adult sets we have been currently getting. I mean, obviously Star Wars has theirs, and like you also have like the Flower series. You have like the numerous like Ideas stuff, as well as like I can't even get into the leaks, but there's so many interesting leaks coming out in the next few months and years even. So it's definitely clear, like there's definitely an appetite for these more mature and like these more like at least more adult oriented sets. And the fact that we're getting some for Ninjago like makes a lot of sense. I mean, this is a property that's almost 2 decades old now, and so obviously there's going to be at least a good chunk of the audience that's going to be craving those kind of sets. And so I feel like this will definitely be successful enough to warrant more in the future.
I hope so. I'm hopeful, I think, because Ninjago, like they've done such a good job recently of kind of just getting a little better at pushing stuff and getting ideas and knowing where to take the theme and knowing what will do better. There was a large chunk of time where it seemed like they didn't really know like what to do with the theme. Like they were not really advertising it. They weren't really pushing it that much. They had core, which seemed like an odd, use of resources. But now it seems like they have a more of a vision and they know more what they want and how they want to expand the demographic.
Oh, for sure.
Because they know how Ninjago looks on the outside. Like they know, like, yeah, of course we all love Ninjago. We all think it's great. And there's things when you watch Ninjago, there's things to appreciate. And I think, anybody can enjoy it. But, they know that if they want more people to watch it, if they want older audience to get invested in it, if they don't want just, kids, they want to make more money off these bigger sets, they have to make something that will appeal to the target demographic of those bigger sets.
Definitely.
And this is definitely the way to do it, where it's not alienating to any of the kids, because obviously this is still completely, it's still TVY7, though it's on YouTube, but if it was on TV.
And
But
somebody also pointed out in the comments right now, I just saw it, that there's going to be a Ninjago Monstrosity book called In the Land of Monsters, akin to the
Exciting.
children's picture books. So even then, there's still there's demographic shifts where everyone of every age can enjoy this story that they've created.
Yeah, it's really smart. It's really smart marketing.
It's kind of interesting now, just like kind of trying to contextualize just like these markets that Lego's been pushing, because like you said, like we had a period where they didn't really know what to do. Like, I mean, if we put in perspective here, we had like the pilots to season 2 era where it's just starting out and it just suddenly became a hit. So they'll just keep making more, and that's what they did for seasons 3 through 7. And then we had the movie come out, and so they're like, all right, well, we just got boosted by the movie, so we're going to push out more of these sets that are reminiscent of that in a way, or at least try to emulate some parts of the success there. And then we had the Wild Brain era, where it's just it's kind of a strange thing where, like, okay, we're now going on for so long, what do we even do? And so it was kind of in that weird transitional phase, just trying to like grasp on what kind of direction they could take. And then it seems they finally landed on something for Dragons Rising now, and we're starting to see like a more like we're starting to see like at least a very sturdy vision.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that really sprout and really thrive in just 3 years now. Like, it's insane that this is how much it's really grown and how much it has really evolved into this point here. Because like you said, like I feel like there's a market for everyone now, like for kids, for adults, and teens. I mean,
Yeah, Ninjago is just such a widespread, like, open IP. You can really go anywhere with it, and they're taking advantage of that. They're doing more with it, and I love that. I hope we get more. I hope we get more. I really want more.
Me too. I want to see what they could do with other characters so bad, like
Yes.
Cole.
And I want to see
please.
this
I
like
would love to
blossom
see-
into like even they get more budget to do the next one, and they make it even longer, and we get even more, and then maybe one day this turns into a whole other, we get a whole season of episodes of this kind of thing. Like, I think I would love that. Obviously, that would be
Kill.
way later down the line, but like,
I would kill for an anthology series that looked like
Yes.
Yes.
That would be so good.
oh, so good.
just
Agreed.
just random stories where you have the context and then you just hit the ground running.
Yeah, no, that would be awesome.
like I think I guess the question is like, what kind of story would you like to see next? Because like I just thought of one in my head, but like I think a story I would like to see is possibly a like maybe a Jay story, like either where we see what he was doing like before he was able to join the administration, because that was like that's a sort of a question I've had, like how exactly did he end up inside this organization? Or maybe we could get more context as to how like Roz found him and how that training went, like especially considering like how aggressive that character became later on once we were reunited with him again in season 2 part 2. So I do feel like that could be another intense and interesting story right there.
Agreed.
I would personally, I know everyone's saying this, but I want to see a Nia one.
Yeah.
But I think
Correct.
specifically, I want to see a Nia story that kind of, completes a little bit of her story from Seabound and Crystallized.
That'd be
I
very nice.
want to see something that bridges the gap a little bit, because Nia's characterization is really good in Dragons Rising, and you can tell they definitely took steps to like readjust and figure her out after the big shakeup that was Seabound and the writing that was Crystallized. They've taken steps to kind of to figure her character out and get her in the right space. But I want to see like the transition of that. Like I feel like there's a story there you could do. I feel like there
Definitely.
within how much messy writing exists within that realm. I think there's a story you could make out of that. I don't know exactly what it would be, but I think there's something there, and I would love to see that.
I mean, she got stuck in the realm of madness. That's pretty
is
much
true.
adjacent to how Kai felt about all the monsters that were
Right.
going around. It was
Oh,
like
you could do so
just
many
be-
good parallels too. There.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it'd be like a really good like side like continuation of this.
And I'm sure there's like a reasonable gap like there is for Kai before she meets like the Craglings, and so
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Like there has to be quite a bit going on there.
Or-
On that note, I would love to still see a Cole short, maybe dealing with him being in the land of lost things. Just
Oh, yeah.
because I don't know, I've been just wanting to see more of that in those characters in general. And so if the show's busy doing other things anyway, then why not?
That's
Get to
see
another
it.
one
One-
where it's like
What's
there's
wrong with
definitely
that?
a story there, because the idea of
Yeah.
Cole feeling lost is definitely something
Yep.
we've explored before.
Oh,
And
definitely.
Oh yeah.
each one can be a different act like it was here. One
Yeah.
with Gio, one with Bonzel, and one with the kids.
Or even
Perfect. Oh,
like
yes, please.
before that, like maybe the story ends with him meeting the Finders. But like, how did he feel before that? And it could kind of be it could be
Yep.
pretty similar to Kai's, where he feels lost. He wants to find the ninja. That's all he wants to do is get back to them. But then he realizes that he has this
And
other
if we
family here.
remember from the Land of the Lost Things peak episode of season 1, there was a monster there too. That
Yeah.
there's the story of them trying to figure out a way to keep away from the giant monster that's in the Land of the Lost Things.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. I will say, like, I'm definitely down for a Cole story as well. The only reason I'm hesitant on it is just more so I feel like the show itself, like, considering the amount of teasing they've done for Cole, I'm kind of hesitant to touch that area right now, because like I don't want to risk, oh, this should have been in the show kind of thing. So I
Yeah,
kind of want to see
Fair.
Cole's
that's
story
true.
play out a little more, and then I would feel comfortable them finally touching on that area, because I'm sure there'll be a lot to really focus on that area. I just think more so it's way too open at the moment, and so I would want them to at least try to close that gap a little. So
That's fair.
you know,
Yeah, Cole's definitely a character that's kind of in a bit of a weird spot right now because
Yeah.
he's not super relevant to Dragon's Rising as a whole, but he has some kind of big, mysteries tied to him a little bit. So it's just kind of a matter of when will they address it. So yeah.
I mean, we could
I
also
think Mia
like
would be
do.
cool. I think Jay would be cool. I think Zane would be interesting. Or like a Zane and Pixel duo thing, and then
Yes, please. Yes, please. I would die
get-
happy.
we
That would be
figure out
so
how they get
awesome.
because they had to have gotten trapped like in a pretty similar area. Like they had by like the same exact people because it's like the same pods, or unless it was like some kind of merge related thing. I don't know, but I assume
Perhaps
they
there's a
were.
savior.
I assume they were captured by someone and put in the pods, or I don't know how they would end up in the or Zane's would end up in like the gateway though. So I don't know. I really don't know. But
I mean, there's some. It's so. I feel like that is the most mysterious. Like out of all these characters, that is the most head scratcher out of all these
yeah.
characters. Because like, how did they end up in those pods? Like, there's
Mhm.
definitely many ways you could go into that. But at the same time, though, like I said for Cole, I feel like this is also kind of something that the show
Yeah, that's even
well
more so like
needs to
we need
answer.
that in the show. That's a show mystery right there. Because the thing that's really great about this Kai one is that like we were wondering of course where Kai was, but like we didn't need to know, right? Like we could have gone the whole show not knowing about the land of monsters and this stuff, and that would have been fine. But we got to see it, and that adds to the world, and that adds to the story, and that adds to the character. You have to find another story like that. I think that's why Nia is such a perfect next step, because it's like there's nothing that's like mandatory that we need to know about where Nia was before she ended up with the Kraglings. Like that's not really relevant and it doesn't really matter. But like it would be cool to see, and it would add to her character,
True.
and it would
True.
if they did it if they wrote it a certain way, it would help bridge the gap between Crystallized and Dragon's Rising.
Indeed.
Any of that kind of stuff I think works well. I think Zane and the pods is something maybe the show should do. Yeah, I think Cole, his whole stuff could be addressed in the show. I think Cole's an interesting middle ground because I do think there's stuff you could do that, like, do we really need to know what Cole was doing in the Land of Lost Things before he met the Finders? Not necessarily. Would it be cool to be in the show? Yeah. Would I be fine with it in a short? Sure. I
Yeah.
think that's one you could do a short of too. But yeah, it's that kind of stuff. They have to find a good middle ground with.
Yeah, I feel like with Zane and Cole, I would prefer like we would only get those kind of stories after those questions and mysteries are
Yeah, we get
like
them later.
at least addressed. Yeah, so I would be fine pushing them aside for now, and I feel like Nia or Lloyd are good candidates for characters for them to really tackle.
Yeah.
If I were to guess, I would say maybe Nia, considering how much they've really pushed and emphasized on that sibling dynamic between those two.
Mhm.
And so I feel like, and since Kai was a big hit, at least from what we've seen so far and what we can speculate, I feel like they'll probably push on to the other sibling.
Right.
And so I feel like she is probably the most logical candidate. Though I could also see a world where they would do Lloyd as well, because the merge it's a 5-year gap, or assumedly at least. So there's a lot of stories they could do with Lloyd as well. But I guess between the two, I would prefer to see Nia.
If not Nia, I could totally see them doing a Rogue Legends series, just bounty hunter rogue
Yeah.
out there
Oh,
doing his
that could
own
work as
thing.
well.
That would be so cool,
Sick.
actually.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Because then that's just supplementary material. It's not like, oh,
Yeah.
what was Nia up to? It's just like, here's just Rogue running around doing
Yeah,
his
just
own
We
thing.
get his origin
Adds on
story.
to what
like,
we
how did
saw
he...
in season 3.1. Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah, because like I mean, by the time we see him, he's already adopted a new identity. So I guess it would be interesting to see him try to like grapple with like no longer being Roz's apprentice, being on
Yeah.
his own, and just trying to
Oh, I
make
can
a new.
imagine that really well, actually.
Plus,
'Cause
he's
he's
got
just-
regular clients. So clearly he's been
True.
doing it for some time.
Like even just the short opening with him like walking through like the merge lands after just like leaving the tournament, and he's like kind of building out that persona. Yeah, that would be really cool. Actually, I really like that idea.
Yeah, I'm honestly down for that too.
Yeah, overall, this is
So
just
many good options.
exciting stuff. Exciting stuff. These shorts are really good. I think basically everyone loved them. I think it is
for
unfortunate how short they are, but it's completely understandable, and I really can't complain.
And with what they
Considering how
do
expensive this
with
probably
it,
was to make.
we talked about everything great. Let's talk about those action sequences.
Oh my god, the animation is so good.
They're stellar.
So
Uh,
good. Like that final shot of Kai like being like vaulted into the air and then like doing the final
Yes.
one
slash.
slice and then the
So
glass
good.
breaks behind him. It's
Yep.
great. Fantastic. This is the Samurai Jack season 5 of Ninjago.
All we're missing is some gore.
Yeah, 2D
Yes.
2D animated Lego stuff is so good when done like
It is.
like this.
I would like to see. Yeah, like Crystal said much earlier in the stream, we like our first impressions of 2D were underwhelming to say the least. So the fact that we finally get to see it fully realized in Legends
So
is
good.
it exceeds my expectations, and so now I'm definitely having an appetite to see what kind of other stories they can make in this format.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm definitely just already ready for the next one. Like, bring it on.
Yep. Please keep doing 2D stuff, Lego. It's always so good.
Please. If
It's
Monkey
always so
Kid's
amazing.
dead, we need to fill the void.
I know. Let Sun
Oh,
Creature
let
Studio
that
animate
fucking
Monkey
help.
Kid. It'll cost like 5
Please
times as
reboot
much,
it.
I'm sure, but
But it'll be beautiful.
Yeah.
Maybe when they eventually reboot the series or whatever,
that's the sad
maybe they
part.
can do 2D.
That's the unfortunate part, because like Lego found such a good like like cooperation with Flying Bart, and they were so like affordable for them at the time, and like they could produce full 10 episode 11 minute or like 11 minute episodes, 10 episode seasons and specials for Monkey Kid like every year. And now that they don't have that resource, like you can tell even just this 15 minutes of shorts cost them probably about as much, if not more, than a whole season of Monkey Kid.
Mhm.
Which is why we can't get like a whole season of this, you know?
That's why we can't have nice things.
2D animation is expensive. It's a sad truth.
But it's
Sad reality.
it's worth the beauty at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
it's worth it.
Even if
Worth
it's
every penny.
a lot.
They made so many
Flying Bark
views
was
in
just
a
built
week.
different. But yeah. Anyone have any closing thoughts on Legends Monstrosity before we touch on the comic a little bit?
It's beautiful. Go
Please.
show it to a random person who doesn't care about Ninjago. Maybe,
Yes,
'cause
everybody
it seems
everybody
so
watching
popular.
right now, show it to like 10 people.
I mean, if they go ham on the intro reactions on YouTube, I think
Oh,
this
yeah.
one can. We need to put that in the comment section. It's like, hey, if you like the intros, look at this.
Yeah, watch
It's only 15
watch this
minutes.
crazy stuff.
I think
Yeah.
the most exciting part about this is that it is a more mature, like oriented kind of story here. And like I mean we sort of got a taste of that in the Oni trilogy as well, but like seeing that here, seeing that really pushed again after being absent for so long is it's just so refreshing to really see. And I'm glad that they were able to execute it well with the animation, with the storytelling and characters and conflicts. So I'm just really pumped to see what else they can tell in this kind of atmosphere and tone if they ever choose to do it again.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right. Shall we talk about the comic?
Le
That will
comic.
The comic
hopefully
Yes,
come
let
out
us.
a lot more smoothly.
allegedly it
We-
comes out,
But we have Ninjago Strike of the Serpentine, which is a comic, a graphic novel focused on the Serpentine War. Which is very interesting because people have been basically asking for this since like Tournament of Elements came out.
Mm-hmm.
People have been wanting
10
something
years.
like this for so
A
long.
decade.
We got like
10
hints of
long
it
years.
in Shatterspin. Actually, I have a question for you guys. Has anybody
Yeah.
here who here has finished Shatterspin since it actually came out? Any of us?
Not
I
me.
have
No.
not, but I have seen panels and people's reaction to said panels.
Did the
This is what I'm
final full thing
hoping.
get released?
It
I think.
did. It either I know it leaked and then I think it did release. Because what
Yeah, it
ended
has a
up
full book, I'm
happening,
pretty
I don't
sure.
remember exactly. So chat, correct me if I'm wrong, please. But yeah, the comics, like the other issues got pushed back so much to the point where they just ended up releasing the full like thing months later. Which I
That
think
makes
was
sense.
like either like last month or the month before.
Yeah, I have not actually
Yeah, it
read
had, like,
any of Shatterspin yet.
I read the
so-
first 2 issues as they came out.
This comic,
did I.
the Shatterspin comic, first came out in May of 2024, and this delay was pretty insane. It's been a year later, and we finally got issue 5.
I think the
So-
fact that none of us really finished the story just kind of shows just how damaging the
Oh yeah.
the
'Cause
consistent release schedule
it was
is. 'cause, like,
supposed to
they
be
have-
for season 2 part 1.
Yeah,
Like it was supposed to be connected to that. And we got it basically an entire year after season 2 part 2 came out.
Did come out.
So yeah. Whoops.
let's hope they can avoid
Wolf
that.
Clan
yeah.
isn't really relevant anymore. Maybe there's some stuff from that comic that are like cool, but I wouldn't know because I didn't read it and I haven't heard anybody talk about it. So
Yeah, apparently it's out and you can get it. So I'm
Yes,
looking at it right now. It came out in May.
finally.
yeah.
Yeah, the last one came out 2 months ago. I haven't
But
had the chance to pick up the comics because I'm broke.
the benefit of this one, which is similar to the initial Garmadon comic, is that it doesn't focus on Dragon's Rising. It doesn't focus on a specific season that's coming out now. It's not like this is about Dragon's Rising season 3 part 2. This is about, this ties all the way back to season 4 basically. This is like an OG Ninjago comic like story. So no matter when this comes out, if it takes a billion years, if it comes out in a couple months, it'll always be relevant. So it'll always be interesting to read and take a look at. Even more so than Garmadon, I'd argue, because we've already seen Garmadon's story be continued through Crystallized. And this is something that isn't really bridging the gap between anything. It's just giving us more backstory and more lore. That's always going to be interesting, no matter what era of the show you know read it during. So that's a benefit. I do like that that's the case. I'm gonna, since Meso isn't here, I'm gonna fill in for Meso and say, echo his sentiment basically on if this ever would have happened, because this discussion has been brought up in the past a few times on NINJAGOcast. If we got a Serpentine War story, because you know this has been a big topic in the community for a long time. And it's like, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna echo sentiment completely because I can't remember word for word what he said, so I don't want to like take the words from his mouth, but basically it is like, it's cool on one hand that we're getting this finally, but on the other hand it's also like, what is the draw here in terms of the story when we already kind of know how it goes, basically? Like, we know basically everything about the Serpentine War that's important. We know all the pivotal points, all the important lore, all the stuff that gets resolved during season 4 and other stuff. So like, what is there here? And it's something I'm interested to see, really. What is there here that is going to be the main draw? What is exciting? What is new about this? That is like, why what is the reason for getting this story now? Basically, is what I'm wondering.
I feel
I'm
like the
interested to
best thing
see.
you could maybe get out of this comic, or like not one of the best, but like something that would be interesting, is the characters that we know exist during the Serpentine War and just getting to see more of them in a different light. I think would be interesting to see. But
If we do look at the cover here,
indeed.
Wu is a very much a major focus of said cover, and it's very interesting how we know a lot due to Tournament of Elements season 4 about Garmadon's side of the war and what he was doing with Klaus and Chen and all of them. This is, I think, one of the first comics where we actually will probably go through, if the cover is correct, Wu's side of the Serpentine War and what he saw. And I think that would be fairly interesting because we don't know much about what happened with Wu as we do about Garmadon during this period of time.
Right.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you mentioned that there, because I think the cover, if the cover is reflective of how the story is going to be and Wu being the protagonist, then I feel like that also represents a shift in the comics, because now it's starting to move away from Garmadon and starting to branch out to these different characters, and who better to try to shift the story more towards than his brother Wu. And so I feel like, let's say this comic is successful, then I feel like it'll give Lego more confidence to have more comics, which will give the writers more confidence to explore different characters and stuff. And in that case, I'm very excited for that kind of future. But when it comes to the moment right now, an interesting part that I just read from the synopsis is how it brings up how like Garmadon and Wu are basically doing their own thing. Like they're both having their own kind of separate journeys, and this war is something that brings them together, as well as being the catalyst for them trying to recruit these members for their alliance. And so I feel like if I was to speculate, the main draw would probably have to be, I guess, more so the drama between these two characters here, because like they're off doing their own thing. Like we know in season 4 that Garmadon was training with Chen, and meanwhile Wu was trying to be a teacher to Moro around that time as well. And so they're all trying their own thing. And so I would like to see, I guess, probably see some, I guess, angst and some, I guess, tension between these two characters, because by this point they've both already formed their own independent paths, and trying to see them try to work together again, because they were once this dynamic duo in the books with the Spinjitzu brothers, but now they have to try to rekindle that same kind of dynamic. But let's say, I don't know how much time it's been since they've last seen each other, but I would assume it would at least be a sizable amount of time for this story to even emphasize that in the synopsis. So at least that's my speculation on it.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because we're so far removed from this at this point that it's kind of interesting that we're getting it now. I think it is. I do think it is cool.
Someone pointed out in the
interested.
chat that the last issue of Shatterspin actually deals a little bit somewhat to what Wu was during the Serpentine Wars.
Ooh.
So there's a connection there. It's probably a pseudo sequel to Shatterspin.
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense considering how much of these comics have basically been about Garmadon and Wu. Garmadon more so, but I guess here we're kind of shifting focus to Wu. It seems like, or at least getting more of like a dual focus.
Good. It's a nice change, I think.
So it's cool. It's cool that we're getting this like kind of old, like classic Ninjago content. Still,
I think it works. Yeah.
In the
I mean, it
Dragon's
makes
Rising
sense
era
because
too.
like
It is
because
neat.
like next year's the 15th anniversary, right? So I feel like it makes sense in that lens.
That
where
is
it's like, oh,
that is
well,
fair.
let's harken back to something old.
That reminds me
They could.
too. I was gonna bring up. I'm looking at the Skybound website and like the announcement for this. It said that the planned release is February 2026, so it would be coming out next year, which would make a lot of sense for the 15th anniversary to have something like this. You're absolutely right.
Though that kind of makes me wonder if the continuation, or like if the ending, like in some way ties into the, I guess, the fallout between these two brothers here at the end, which would be interesting. Or maybe the next one more so deals with what Wu did after like Garmadon was banished to the underworld, if they wanted to pivot to Wu.
Yeah.
It's also interesting to know we have different writers for this one as
Also
well.
true.
So it's like the same kind of team behind it, but the writers are different.
Yeah.
I do think like we were talking about like trying to brainstorm like why they would now like focus on the story, and I guess I feel like part of it does have to do with the fact that like Tornado Developments just had its anniversary a few months ago, like back in February, and so having a story centered around the Serpentine Wars does seem like a nice way of celebrating that, even though it's coming out next year. But it is nice for at least for the franchise to at least acknowledge that era, and for it to really focus like I guess dive more deep into it, because this is a story, like you said earlier, that people have been wanting to see for so long. I'm sure some people have even thrown around the idea of this could be like a spin-off series, and as much as I would like that, I do think the comic was a more plausible.
I think a comic is definitely a great way to go. So it's very.
I will say too. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, I was just basically saying it's cool.
Oh yeah. I will say, I know it's a little off topic, but I mean, just looking at this cover, it's giving me major like 2012, 2013 Ninjago comic vibes.
Right, yeah.
Like just that it has that same look. I'm sure that wasn't what they're going for, but that's kind of what I see. So it's making me nostalgic in that regards. I mean, maybe they were going for that because, like we said, 15th anniversary, but
definitely has like that old style that I remember.
Yeah, I see it now. I think one aspect that I really look forward to see is I guess because we see some elemental masters here, and so now I'm really curious to see how it fleshes out those characters and how we'll try to like bring those stories like together, because I mean, we only saw them for like a couple seconds at best, and so it would be nice to be able to learn like their personalities, or at least like get a sizable amount of character moments that we're able to at least feel a sort of attachment to them, which would be nice. Like, in a sense, I'm kind of describing it like how the Clone Wars was a great supplemental material in getting us to really connect with these prequel characters that we saw in the Star Wars trilogy, and so I'm hoping something similar is done with this comic here.
Actually, my biggest hope for this, now that you mentioned that, is I want good Rey and Maya content. That is
Oh,
my
yeah, that's what I was
biggest
saying
hope.
when I was saying like character stuff. I want that too, man.
And
I want
also,
that too.
don't the Time Twins have to appear in this? Aren't they
Technically,
like
yeah, they
aren't they
can.
like a
They
big
definitely-
part of the Serpentine Wars?
Yeah, that'd
Well,
be
they
that'd
are.
be pretty cool. See them.
I
here.
feel like a way they could try to go around that is more so they came in more so in the middle of the war rather than
Yeah,
at
because
the
I do know they came in later, and then they kind of like started the
Yeah.
whole like Civil War, and then all that stuff that
Yeah.
Hands of Time, for some reason, was like, yeah, let's just completely add in this.
Yeah, and
But
I just
yeah.
retconned it where they were like, oh yeah, these guys were in there too.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
and also to point out that one of the characters that's on the cover is the design for the previous Earth Master, which may have been confirmed to be Cole's grandfather.
Yes.
So that is pretty good. I'm excited for the story potential here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what drove him to betray his team and what
Right?
also drove him to join them again, because we see him back with the team again when the Serpentine War's over. So
That's a good point. That's a good point.
It looks like we might also have a new Elemental Master based on the cover. There's a new looking individual in between Wu and Garmadon there. I'm interested to know if that's a new Elemental
Yeah,
Master
that's
and
true.
what their element is.
that does make me curious as well.
We have stuff to fill the wiki with.
Also, that is
Previous ancestors.
that is Pythor in the back, right? That's not like a different
I don't
Anaconda.
know.
I don't know if it is. Like, I
If
threw
they-
around the idea that it could
Anaconda
be.
character.
So
could
if
be-
the Serpentine Wars ended 40 years prior to season 7, and we subtract like a couple of years when Pythor was released, he could have been like a teenager or like a child.
Well, he was in the
And grew
montage
up.
in season 4, right?
Yeah, he was. And he was. I mean, they could retcon that where he looks younger in the comic as well.
It would make more
but-
sense. Yeah, because Crystal's right. Like,
He could be like a young adult, maybe like in or early 20s, late teens,
I mean,
and had to
considering
grow in that development, in that department.
yeah,
considering Fanctum and Scales knew each other,
right.
Yeah.
assumedly before they
They're-
got sealed in, makes me assume that a lot of the Serpentine we see in the show were at least alive for the Serpentine War, or at least like a good chunk of them were. So
Or the one that Pythor was in had the less amount of resources for food and water,
they were
which
in.
is even more dark. Like,
for
the
me,
Anaconda ran out of food.
But I think it would be pretty cool if Pythor was like a main antagonist here. I think that'd be pretty epic. I love me some more
Pythor origins.
content. Let's go.
I mean, I feel like the main antagonist would have to be Arcturus, considering he is like the highest like ranking official, I would assume, in the war, at least against the Elemental Masters.
I wonder if they're gonna touch on the ethnic or like the ethical dilemma of the Serpentine being put in the tombs.
Yeah.
And banishing them, like some of the leaders.
Should we? What should we do?
Will Ninjago comic touch on the ethics of war and what is
I mean,
what is considered
I
a war
think
crime?
Crazy.
I mean, like, you also got to consider as well, if it's going to touch on that, it needs to also showcase the horrors of war and what
Like,
atrocities.
I think
were
I'd be
committed
asking
a
bit.
bit-
for them
I
to
think I'd be
do
asking
that
a bit too much of a
Or-
Ninjago comic there, but if
I
I was
mean-
if I was hired to write a Serpentine War story, I think that would be a pretty interesting angle.
I mean, when I say atrocities, I mean as much as they can show for a kids show. They'll probably just destroy a bunch of villages, maybe kidnap
I
some
mean, they
people,
could.
and that'll be as much as they do. But
I think the entrapment in the tombs is a pretty big atrocity. So considering what we learned with Pythor, what happened with Pythor's tomb, so
Like, as long as
it's pretty
we
messed
don't
up.
have anybody come around the tombs and we hide the map, we'll be fine. We fine.
Is Ninjago's economy impacted by the Serpentine War?
Yeah, can we?
For all the important questions and
what were the
more.
governments involved?
These are the
Okay.
questions that we need answered by this comic. This is what's
They
important.
would.
How did it
they would-
affect?
On their way to Ninjago City, they attacked Jamonikai Village so many times.
Oh yeah,
God.
dude,
It
I
was
wonder
the
if
mayor.
Jamonikai Village
What
is
was
gonna
he
like.
doing? What was the mayor of Ninjago City doing during this time?
I don't know.
Or even the royalty. Like, were they figureheads at this point?
Or
Or
they're
Were
just
they just
hiding
chilling in
out?
their
Like, did they
mountains?
just run away? I feel like they just run away and try and ignore the conflict because they don't really do much.
There is a lot of questions regarding this whole thing.
But
So-
like, I guess to go back to my point though, I do feel like it needs to at least showcase this bitter kind of rivalry between these two, and I do feel like a few panels, I guess, showcasing like the conflict and how it's like affecting the civilians and stuff, and pushing like Wu and Garmadon to like bring this team together. I do feel like we definitely need to see that for those kind of reasons right there.
Yeah. I
Obviously
can't
age
remember-
appropriate. They can't go too far as much as I would like it to,
Mhm.
but I feel like they could at least go as far as they are able to and showcasing that.
It was like kind of implied in season 1 that Wu had known Pythor before, right? Or am I like making that up? Because I can't remember.
it's been a while.
I feel like there was
It's
definitely
been
like
a
a...
while for me too.
I don't think so. But it'd be nice if it is Pythor on the cover. Especially since there was a significant portion of Ninjago, namely season 3, where Pythor was in a hood and in hiding the whole time.
Yeah.
Sure.
If we do get Pythor origins, we might get to see like if he had any actual power. Was he just one of the weaklings that was pushed too far?
I want to know why he
th- that'd be
looked so
so cool.
different from the rest of them.
Right?
Because he's not
Like,
like
he's a
he's
longer
not like the leader.
No.
So was Arcturus.
My game theory is that this is like a Count Dooku-esque villain that's being, Master Chen's probably like pulling the strings and manipulating them like he did like with the Time Twins
Oh, yeah.
and how he started
Mhm.
the war. And this
Yeah.
Serpentine is probably going to be the reason Arcturus and the other Serpentine are like, yeah, let's fight the humans.
I guess my biggest hope is I hope this doesn't accidentally retcon anything.
Yeah.
Because
It's
what I
always a
read of
danger.
Shatterspin, I remember there was already some weirdness going on with like discrepancies between information we were given in Dragon's Rising about the Wolf Clan and information we were given in the comics. I can't remember specifics, but I remember that being a topic we brought up when talking about it on a NINJAGOcast when those first came out. It would be really easy to accidentally retcon something here, and I hope that doesn't happen. That is my biggest hope.
I think they have more of a chance to not have a lot of retcons because of how much far and away we are from the Serpentine Wars as a subject in Ninjago.
Yeah.
While Shatterspin is made in tandem with the series, there could be things that were just swept under the rug or they didn't talk about is very possible, and why those retcons exist.
True. Like in the writing room where it's like, oh, they're given one piece of information from the higher
Right.
ups and someone else didn't know, and so this thing gets shuffled there, and it just
And there's
accidentally
always
happens.
things that get deleted on the cutting room floor. Some
Indeed.
things
This
slip
is
through the
just
cracks.
this is more of a case of the writers doing their homework and hoping they,
Yeah.
because this is old content we're talking about. Like this is like ages ago.
10 years
So,
ago.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like
They
having
really
that
only have
knowledge
3
is
seasons.
getting it right
Yeah.
is
Which
important.
could be a detriment as well, as much of a benefit it could be as well.
Yeah. Personally, I probably won't pick up on anything because I don't remember the lore fully well completely. But for those who
All
do,
we have to do is watch Tournament of Elements.
Yeah.
You gotta go back.
I
to
remember the
season
I
four.
remember the
tournament
important
stream.
I remember the important
That's-
stuff.
That's not too bad.
You gotta watch Tournament
I
of
guess you
Elements
just need
and
to
Hands of
watch-
Time.
Oh god, I don't want to watch that second one.
The writers here.
Easy, I already showed you it again. Come on.
The writers are like,
They
Oh, we
have-
just did that. We just did that, Kevin. That was like 3 months ago.
Ninjago
Yeah.
gives these comic writers this assignment. They're like, okay, so for this season, there's a few for this comic, there's a few things we need you to watch. We need you to make sure you understand Tournament of Elements. Okay, cool. You gotta go back and watch Hands of Time.
And they're like, hell no.
I'm like, all right.
Actually,
Can
they-
we do a
they
comic
only
on a
have to
different
watch
era?
the YouTube compilations every time that they mention the Serpentine War on YouTube.
There you go. There you go. Just do that.
They can just do that.
Or they just go on the
No,
wiki.
but I'm sure
probably.
the writers
Yeah.
of this are very dedicated. I'm pretty sure the writer who did like Garmadon and Shatterspin basically watched like the entire show before even like writing. I don't know the background of these writers, but
It's
I
just
have faith.
it's just unfortunate that it wasn't mentioned at all and crystallized. But what are you
Yeah.
gonna do?
Yeah, I feel bad because like he put so much effort into that story and did such a good job of like characterizing Garmadon and his change throughout that, only for the show itself to not even acknowledge it.
Yes, more
it's
scenes of
so-
Garmadon
so
terrorizing
unfortunate.
children in a park.
It's like,
That's great.
it makes me so sad. But that's where you can go read Ninjago Recrystallized and see my interpretation on
Hey.
Garmadon and how he evolved
shame-
past the Garmadon comics.
A shameless plug.
Yep, that's what we do here.
Yes.
There will be another one at the end of the stream.
Oh,
Cool. Yeah.
I think we were talking about Pythor earlier, and I think something that I remember from the finale of Tournament of Elements is how he was kind of it was pretty much a loser. at least how the leadership viewed him,
Yeah,
because like, good job, Pythor, you finally did a good
that
thing.
is true. Yeah, he didn't really
So
seem
I'm,
like.
I'm
he
curious
did
to
much.
see like what did he do to
Maybe he
warrant
like
that
messed
kind of
up
reaction
really
and
bad.
reputation?
You know what? That would be interesting if Pythor was like the villain of this comic, but he just like completely screwed things up for the Anaconda accidentally. Like he thought he did something really cool. He's like, guys, I just like got us this huge win for the war, and then he's like, nope, you just completely messed it up.
All of a
He
sudden, they
was-
start hearing a flute play.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just
Perhaps
got
that's
to
why
the
he hates
wiki.
that's why he hates the humans so much. Because like
Yeah.
during the war, he was a complete embarrassment. He's like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm taking my revenge on you guys.
because it would
It
make sense
says-
if he got defeated at the end of this, and that led into him kind of.
Yep. It says in the wiki that he was sealed with his brethren. He was alive for the Serpentine Wars.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we saw
So-
him in the flashback.
Yeah.
so I remember that. Like there was a shot that lingered on seeing
Yeah,
him before.
but that was like the only time, and he's like completely different from everyone else, which still I would love to know why, but I don't think we're ever gonna learn.
Maybe it's a
But,
genetic defect.
Maybe.
I mean, my theory is he just eats a lot, and that's why he's that big.
So I guess, but
Already.
like Arcturus and the other generals like died before they got sealed up, right?
They were just
I'll read the
banished to
wiki.
the curse.
Or
realm,
yeah,
aren't
they were banished. That is right. They were
Yeah.
banished. Okay. See, I say I remember the important stuff, but as you can see, I clearly need to brush up.
Tournament of
Um,
Elements is my lifeblood.
Yeah. They were banished, and that's why Pythor was able to just eat the rest of the guys. No problem. Good old-fashioned cannibalism.
Okay.
We love
so
Ninjago Season
Pythor-
1.
Yeah, Pythor was one of the other 11 lower-ranked Anacondrae that were being controlled by the Elemental Alliance using the flutes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, okay. Yeah.
So he's a snake that's maybe 50, 60 years old.
So I
At this
guess my
point.
theory would be about this comic, or at least what I think would be interesting is if this was a story where Pythor, obviously this isn't going to be like the whole war. But, it's a story about Wu and Garmadon, working together, obviously. It's going to be the core of it. But, Pythor maybe, this is, there's a part of the war where he has a plan, he enacts it, he gets defeated by Garmadon and Wu in the Alliance, and that somehow sets back the Anacondra and gets them
Goodness.
to be
Someone
upset with
pointed out-
him.
Yeah. Someone pointed out in the chat, barely here, one of the writers said something along the lines of Pythor's long neck was a genetic mutation, and he was a low-ranking member of the tribe and bullied.
Oh, that's
Oh, no.
sad.
So like, because I think it would be
Oh,
interesting actually if this was a story like he was
Insane.
trying to prove himself. Like he tries to prove himself, he tries to do
And he
something,
didn't,
and then he gets
so
defeated.
he ate them.
And yeah, so he ate them.
Fantastic.
But then he gets his redemption in Tournament of Elements, and it all comes full circle.
Does that mean he has the highest kill
You know what,
count?
I would
among
actually,
Ninjago
not higher than Nia.
No, yeah, exactly. You destroyed a whole realm. You just ate a tribe.
Oh yeah.
She
But yeah,
caused the
actually,
spectral
you know
layer.
what?
Nia's not a villain. Come on.
That makes me a lot more.
support.
Now I'm very excited for like this idea that I've made in my head that might not end up being what's the case. But like, I love the idea of like a
Wow.
fun Pythor origin story. That sounds fun to me. You know what? If this
Maybe-
doesn't, I said I would never write any more fanfic after Recrystallized, but if this isn't what that is,
Pythor
I might have
fanfic.
to look at that idea.
Reevaluate.
I might
Oh
have
my
to-
God.
The change you want to see
Please,
in the
I would
world,
What if-
love to do that with you. Can we do a collab?
That would go hard. The
What
Pythor
if-
Yes.
origin story.
That'd be sick.
Assuming this is
I-
what this is, but I guess we'll see.
I do feel like I feel like Pythor will at least get a mention. I didn't think about if they would ever put focus to his character, but I feel like there's at least a decent chance that they will at least put like a great amount of focus on him, like maybe put him in like a supporting role or maybe even something higher than that. But as we said, this is like speculation. But I would kind of like to see that kind of story of him trying to rise through the ranks and then just completely fumbling it.
Because that's such a Pythor thing for to happen, and that would that would add such interesting context to his character. Because he's like so, especially in season 1, he's so desperate to be like the leader and for everyone to follow him, and he gets so power hungry from it, and he gets so like warped by his like mindset of wanting to get revenge, and just the idea of him like having that kind of past where he like tried to prove himself but was just shut down by everyone. I feel like that would add even more to his character in season 1, which I already really like.
I mean,
add a lot
an interesting
more
thing
to
you also
his-
put as well is the idea of possibly Pythor helping to instigate the war. And I kind of like, I do kind of vibe with this idea actually, the more I think about it, because in a sense, it also helps to recontextualize his first meeting with Lloyd. Like, his first act is manipulating this child, and he kind of projects his own sense of humiliation, his own sense of
Yeah.
hatred towards like humans. And now here is this kid trying to like, you know, like manipulate him into like being his like servant essentially, and now he gets to do the thing that he's been wishing to do for so long
Especially-
now.
You bring up a good point too, especially because Lloyd was like being bullied basically in the school, and he was like
They're both
bonding with
out.
Pythor over not having friends. Dude, oh my god. Okay, I really hope this is about Pythor now, but I don't know.
this up. We're gonna be so.
I've never
angry
thought
later.
about
Please forgive
the
us.
idea of Pythor lore much before, but now that I'm thinking about it,
And
it's
it
so
also,
fun.
lore
I thought of
real.
another angle, because like the thing about him making his ancestors proud is he literally brings the book that would help bring in Arcturus, like the spell book that would help bring in Arcturus and get them to banish Chen and effectively end the war. So what if this would be like a full circle moment where he like started the war and now he helped end the war like forever,
Mhm.
pretty much,
Yeah,
which would be great, I'd say, if they did
that
do
would
that.
be very, very epic. That would be very cool. I guess we'll see. When this comes out.
I mean,
Time
I'm gonna
will
forget
tell.
everything I said here, which will be a good thing. Otherwise, I'll get disappointed if none of my
Imagine we
ideas
just
happen.
completely predicted the whole thing. Probably not.
We're
Please.
actually the writers, guys. Sorry to say.
What? What are those 3 names? We've never seen those before.
Exactly.
I'm curious to
They
see how
didn't tell
Chen
us
will fit
anything.
this story.
Yeah. Anybody have any other thoughts on Strike of the Serpentine before we wrap up?
That pretty much covers it, I think.
I-
I'm really
I-
excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm actually
I
more
think-
excited
Need
after that
to-
conversation now.
Yeah.
Up on Shatterspin first, but after that, I'll be.
Oh,
very
yeah.
excited
Yep.
to see
Forgot
what
about that.
There's a link in the chat, in the live chat that I just put up.
Oh, thank you.
You can buy the whole thing of Shatterspin for $12.99 on
Oh,
Barnes
cool.
and Noble.
That is a good
I'll
price.
even put, yeah, and I'll put the link down here.
That-
Well,
you
next
save,
time
like-
next time I'm at a bookstore, I'll see if they've got Shatterspin in
Yeah.
stock.
Shatterspin Book Club. Heck yeah.
I feel like one
I'll
thing
be
I
on the
am
hunt.
curious how they'll handle Chen in the story.
Yeah. Yeah, because they touched on him a little bit in Shatterspin.
Like he's kind of in a unique position where you can't make him, at least like you can't make him the main villain initially because his whole thing's deception and stuff, and so we're gonna spend a lot of time assumedly with Arcturus and like the Anacondrae, but at the same time though you can't give him too little as well because you do want him to be relevant in the story and very prominent in it as well. So
Right.
I'm curious to see
They'll
how
be pulling
they'll
the strings in the background, I'm sure.
we'll get like a panel of him every now and then.
Yeah.
So curious to see how they'll
And
bring him in
Garmadon
as
will
well.
like be with them. I'm assuming for some of it.
It'd be
Well, I
fun
mean,
to see
considering
them.
this is a story where they're like Wu and Garmadon reconnecting to bring this team
Yeah.
together, I'm curious to see like
But I'm sure
what
there'll
more
be some conflict there, and that'll be perpetuated by Chen, since that's kind of what we got like in Tournament of Elements with
Oh,
the whole
certainly.
Misako thing. So if anything, Chen will probably only act to, worsen the rift between Wu and Garmadon, and I'm sure there'll be some point in the story where that happens, and they have to, solve that conflict in the end.
I'm curious how Wu feels about Chen though,
Yeah, well, I'm
because we
sure
never really
Wu-
get his side.
I'm
of
sure
how he
Wu.
feels
I'm
about
sure Chen isn't Wu's favorite person, but actually,
Oh,
I would
definitely
assume
How
not.
did Chen give you a whole lordship? What's going on here?
Yeah, these are all important questions that we should know.
but,
Oh man, that now that you brought that up, that's gonna have to be brought up as well. Like I feel like there's gonna be dialogue where he's just like, "I'm Lord now," actually, and he's like, "Don't get that to your head. Let that get to your
Right.
head." So it's kind of like
right.
I'm very curious to see that. And like I want to know like what does Wu know about Chen as well? Like what's
I feel like
what
Wu's
makes
gotta
this
be
guy so special
suspicious.
enough that Garmadon went to him?
Wu would definitely be suspicious. Right off the bat. I feel like.
Oh, certainly.
So I feel like there's gonna be some conflict there, as we already saw in the flashbacks. I'm sure they'll expand upon that.
It'll be fun to see them try to like put the pieces together of like, oh, Chen's manipulating both sides.
Right.
If they do that here,
Yeah, because Chen is
That'd be
basically
fun.
pulling the strings behind all of it.
Just the potential of stories that we could get out of this is enough to be excited about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that basically does it for today's Ninjago cast. I'll just open it up at the end here for some shameless plugs. First off, just want to say I am doing more music, and this time it's Ninjago. So Ninjago
Yeah.
fans, you're getting music. 6 new songs, just like I did with Monkey Kid, except these ones are gonna be on Ninjago characters. The 6 main ninja.
let's
So
go.
that'll be coming out sometime later this year. I can't give like an exact release window or anything yet, but
Cool.
That's also.
I've been working on it
rude.
and it's coming. So I'm excited. And I hope you guys are too. And if anybody
Hell
else
yeah.
wants to plug their stuff, feel
I
free to
guess
do it
I'll
now.
go next. I already mentioned Frostburn, which is still very much in the works.
Yes.
And the hope is by the end of the year. That is the hope. That is the dream. But
Christmas
on the
special
side of
on Christmas.
Christmas
That sounds
special.
good.
But on the side note of that, on the side, I've been working on a pixel video actually for
Ooh.
a few months now as well, and so that is also coming along with it. So keep an eye out.
Epic.
Uh, I'm a lot of my stuff's still in pre-production, and I don't know when any of it will be released, but I am thinking of making perhaps a video on a certain new intro.
Oh yeah,
Of Ninjago.
Yeah.
I
I'm
may or
excited
may
for that
not
one.
dislike it. Who knows? Maybe I like it, and perhaps I might finally get started on that vlog where I met some Ninjago voice actors, which would be
Ooh.
nice to share.
Epic.
Do you have anything, Konya?
Other than my multi-chaptered fanfic of Colonia,
Let's go.
Ninjago retelling, which is basically writing Ninjago as if Colonia were a romance that was doomed to fail. It is currently in production. I don't know when the next chapter will come out, but I have been writing about 500 words a day. So, and my chapters are very long. My longest chapter was 19,000 words.
Dang.
Yeah,
And
that's impressive.
I've read it to a lot of people in Discord servers, and they very much enjoy it. It's basically like we haven't done it in a while, but they loved it so much that they constantly ask, when will the next chapter come out, and can you read it to us?
Nice.
I'm one of those people.
That's so epic.
And also, I'm here to announce that if any of you are fellow heathen Konya stands, I will announce that on Tumblr there will be a Colonia week on Tumblr starting on September 8th. If you want to go, which is also my birthday, fantastic.
Hey,
If you want to search that, it will be Konya Week 2025, hosted by my friend Leo on Twitter. If you want to look that up, and they'll be posting more information about it soon.
Yay.
I guess I could go.
Go ahead.
I stream on Twitch under HSBB2. That's what I do most of the time. I've been streaming pretty much every week now. I'm trying to get a little more consistent. As for stuff in pre-production, I streamed this like 2 weeks ago, but I finally started writing like the third or fourth book in my series, but that's about Ninjago, obviously, because everyone here loves Ninjago.
Yay.
Yeah, we do.
So I'm trying. It's a book with like original characters that tries to stay pretty canon to the story of Ninjago, and hopefully that starts coming out towards the end of this year. But
Nice.
I'm looking forward to sharing that at some point.
Very cool. Yeah, I love hearing all the cool stuff that you guys have been working on and all that stuff.
Oh, Wellspring can be found on AO3fanfic.net and Wattpad. They're on all three of them.
Nice.
It currently hit 10,000 hits
nice.
yesterday.
Yes.
Oh, nice! Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very cool. Community is always working on such cool stuff, so I'm glad to be able to have a space to get people together and share stuff they're working on.
Yeah, I'm working on one with Kevin too, which will probably be announced later.
Cool.
Exciting.
Very, very cool. But I think with that basically wraps up the podcast. We actually these always go on longer than I think they will, but like we had
Definitely.
quite a
I
lot
was
to say.
surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, we discussed so much over an announcement and
Exactly,
a
an
poster
announcement and a
and
15-minute
a 15-minute
shorts.
short.
You know, it's quality stuff. I don't know when we'll be back next. The idea is to do these monthly, so next month we'll see. If we have literally nothing, we might start talking about the leaked episodes. Maybe we'll see what happens.
Maybe, and the fact that next month is also Comic-Con.
That
so
is
we
true.
might have
Which,
even
you know,
more new information.
The thing is about that, is with the whole leak thing. I'm not sure how that's going to be handled, but I do assume there's other stuff besides just season 3 news that is going to be revealed anyway. So, assuming there's stuff to talk about there, then that might be the topic of the next one.
There's always people.
Otherwise,
There's always
we'll see.
There's always people who live tweet, so we can just see what they were saying
We'll see what
periodically
happens.
throughout the panel.
But either way, I do want to start doing some art streams like we're done on Keep the Peace, because there's a lot of people that we get for these podcasts, but there's also a lot of people that unfortunately aren't able to make it because of scheduling, and there's all kinds of fun conversations to be had all the time. So hopefully the next stream will be like a chill drawing stream where we can just chat and draw and have fun and make
Nice.
silly pictures for the chat to enjoy. But until then, that's going to be it for this episode of NinjagoCast. I have been your Sensei Bendo.
I'm Cheesy.
I'm Konya Crystal.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Hunter.
And this has been NinjagoCast. Thank you guys so much for watching, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.